the most important emotion that I have right now is just sincere gratitude for President Biden and his entire administration. Today, my family is whole, but as you all are aware, there's so many other families who are not whole. And so BG's not here to say this, but I will gladly speak on her behalf and say that BG and I will remain committed to the work of getting every American home, including Paul, whose family is in our hearts today. As we celebrate BG being home, we do understand that there are still people out here who are enduring what I endured the last 9 months of missing tremendously their loved ones. So thank you everybody for your support. And today it's just a happy day for me and my family. So I'm gonna smile right now.
Welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. With the breaking news of Brittney Griner's release, there are questions from some like, how will this affect America's relationship with the world? Why didn't this happen sooner? And what does this trade mean for Joe Biden's popularity? And did he do it specifically for visibility? And what are the consequences of giving Russia back their arms dealer Victor Bout? We speak now with political expert and strategist Amani Wells-Onyioha regarding the trending news. Amani, welcome to the Black Press of America's Let It Be Known.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
We're excited to have you. Amani, we saw your piece in Newsweek. Great piece, of course. Got to ask you how you believe this will affect the Black community, this release of Brittney. How will it affect the Black community and their feelings about President Joe Biden?
I think we're all taking like a collective woosah, like a relief breath because we're happy that she's finally home. As you may know, she is from Texas, so it's nice to have one of my fellow folks back where she belongs. I think this might actually be positive for Biden. I'm happy that he did it. I'm sure a lot of us are happy that he did it. It did take much longer than any of us were anticipating, and her arrest was very strange to say the least in the very first place. So I think it was a great move for him. It was a smart move for him, and hopefully he can continue to make the community happy in this next 2 years because he got a lot to prove.
Yeah, well, and that seems, well, at least his spoken mission, right from the beginning. He said the Black community is what got him there, the Black vote, and
Mhm.
he was going to do things that needed to be done. Really, I mean, he picked a Black woman as vice president, got
Mhm.
the first Black woman Supreme Court justice, and some other initiatives that he's been working on. But this one really stood out like a sore thumb, Brittney Griner in Russia. But also, Amani, there's Paul Wheeling, right? The former
Mhm.
U.S. Marine that's been there for 4 years. He
Mhm.
came out and in a lot of ways he kind of blasted the administration because he's still there.
Yeah.
Um, so there's like a double-edged sword here, right?
And I understand his concerns. I think the reason why they were pressing for Brittany to get home so much harder is because she was really arrested for something ridiculous. Like she had been playing overseas in Russia for many years. Like she was familiar with the area. She represented their team and won, victories for them as far as basketball is concerned. So it seemed like her arrest was really just kind of like a slap in the face to Biden, and it was really kind of a purposeful thing, in my opinion, based off of the response to the Ukrainian war that's breaking out. I think that the Kremlin wasn't happy with the way that the Biden administration has been giving aid to Ukraine, and I think this was just a way for them to kind of stick it to him and twist the knife and just do something to get a reaction. And kind of spark some type of beef, is what it seems like to me.
Yeah, that seems to complicated things that they continue to send billions upon billions of dollars in aid to Ukraine. And also, we know too that Russia's really struggled in that war. It's gone on a lot longer than what many thought it would be. We're in December. That war started in February when Brittany was
Mhm.
pretty much taken hostage.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was a direct result of the sanctions that were put on Russia at the beginning of the war. I remember we were all like scared, thinking World War III was about to start or something. But I saw the U.S. and a lot of the other world superpowers really just kind of trying to put Russia in check in a way, and they were hoping that it would kind of dissolve the war, and they were hoping that the sanctions would kind of deter Putin and the Kremlin from pursuing this war. But it kind of did the opposite. They have kind of dug their heels into the ground, and it doesn't seem like they're going to budge anytime soon.
Okay, so let's talk about Victor Bout. Victor Bout is the notorious arms dealer, a guy
Mhm.
they call the Merchant of Death, who his mission, one of his missions in life, according to all reports, is to kill Americans. Was this, in fact, a fair trade, and will America benefit overall by giving up Victor Bout back to Russia?
It was not a fair and equal trade at all. You have somebody who is literally like death to all America and somebody who just had a little bit of weed on her. Like it's just not the same thing and can't even be compared in any way. But Russia knew what they were doing. I think they inflicted Brittany with such a harsh punishment, the 9 years in prison, moving her to basically an internment camp. Like
Hmm.
really brutalizing her. And they did that because they wanted to have some type of leverage to get their guy back. So if they were just going to give Brittany a slap on the wrist, have her come back to Russia, pay a fine or something, they knew that wasn't going to be strong enough to elicit a reaction from the Biden administration. So I think they were being very strategic and purposeful with the way that they were treating Brittany because they needed some sort of leverage for the U.S. to release such a crazy criminal.
Yeah, crazy criminal is right, and that argument has been going on since February. You know, do you trade Victor Bout for Brittany Griner? Do you trade Victor Bout for Brittany and Paul? And it
Yeah.
seemed to make sense that they both would be included, right?
hmm Yeah, so you would think. I'm assuming that just the timing of Britney's arrest probably had a lot to do with why she was more on the forefront of their mind, and why she was able to be released so quickly. I think it's the timing and just the charge itself played a big role in their decision.
Yeah, and it must have been horrifying. Obviously, you wasn't there, I wasn't there, but it
Mhm.
had to have been, from all we know about these penal colonies in Russia,
Yeah.
to send someone like Brittany
Mhm.
Griner, a tall black woman who openly gay,
Mhm.
um, man, that had to have been an impetus, more of an impetus, I should say, for the administration to work as hard as it could to get her out of there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I truly can't even imagine what she's been through over there. And I know her just being able to come back and just get reacclimated to American society is going to be really difficult for her because of all the trauma that she went through being locked away for something that was so minuscule and so small. So I'm just hoping that she can recover. I'm hoping that she, has the support, that the government continues to support her along this process, whatever aid she needs for her mental health, for her physical health. I'm hoping that they can help her and assist her with that process to get her back up to speed to where she needs to be.
Yeah, I was at the press conference this morning, Thursday morning, and one of the things that struck me and I thought was very important, the president did say, she's going to need space, she's going to need some
Mhm.
privacy, she's going to need some time. That obviously was a direct message to the media. How
Yeah.
important is it that she's not sworn, and she's going to be sworn
Yeah.
once folks find out where she's at?
Mhm.
She's supposed to be landing in San Antonio within the next 24 hours. I'm sure they're
Mhm.
staking out every landing strip there is in San
Yeah.
Diego, public and private. But how important is that, especially given the circumstances?
Yeah, please leave that poor woman alone. Like she has been through enough. Give her time, give her space, and as much time as she needs. I'm sure there's some stuff that went on over there that she still has to process, and she doesn't want to have to do that on camera in front of a microphone. Like she's going to need to be with her family, with her wife, with her friends, and just surrounded by people who genuinely love her and care about her health and well-being, and who aren't, chasing a quote or a headline or something like that. So I think we should just give her all the space and the time that she needs. And when she's ready, she'll come to us and, let us know what happened in her own way.
So TMZ, you got to leave her alone.
Yes,
TMZ
please,
especially, right?
TMZ, leave Brittany alone.
So
Okay.
what, Amani, what strategy, again, I'm gonna refer back to that great piece you have in Newsweek where you talked about this. What strategy is America playing with Russia, and how do we as Americans read into the situation as a whole?
Yeah, I don't know if the American government sees an end in sight for this. I know that they want to, and I know they've been trying to continue to give aid and aid and aid and aid, but there's going to come a time where aid isn't enough, or it's not doing what it is. Clearly, it's not doing what it is that we're aiming for it to do. So I think they're just going to have to kind of go back to the drawing board and recalibrate a way to end this war in a diplomatic way. Nobody wants a World War III. Nobody wants everybody fighting. Nobody wants any more lives to be lost, especially over something that is so unnecessary. And it was a historic thing for Putin to even do. So we don't want to boil the flames of this anymore. I think we just need to figure out a diplomatic strategy that can keep as many people safe and can keep us as out of it as necessary. Like, we don't want to per se just leave Ukraine on their own and be like, see you later, good luck. Like, that's not the proper approach, I don't think. But at the same time, there is a lot of money that we've poured into this war that truthfully don't have a lot to do with us, and we need to figure out a more diplomatic way that'll make the American people happy. We could use some of that aid over here, frankly. So we just need to figure out a way
Absolutely.
to get it together.
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned how Russian officials in your piece had some strategic reasons behind why they took Brittany hostage.
Mhm,
After revealing they were looking for a trade, the evidence was clear. This was something planned, preconceived.
mhm.
Talk a little bit about that. They were very strategic, huh?
Absolutely. Like, they chose Brittany, for one, she was a frequent person that comes in and out of their country. So they knew who she was. She
Right.
played on a national team for them. Like, she wasn't just this strange black lady that was smuggling drugs into the country. Like, let's be serious. They knew exactly what they were doing. And they were just trying to hide behind these fictitious charges because they were wanting to get this arms dealer back. I don't know what he has to do with this war. I don't know what secrets he knows. I don't know what access he has to weaponry on their side, but clearly he was important enough after this. After the invasion, that they need to get him back ASAP. And this was kind of just a quick way for them to do it. And also just a quick way to piss Americans off. I think they just, you know, they don't like us. We've had a long-standing beef with Russia for what, 50 years? Like,
Yeah.
it's a long thing. The Cold War, I guess, kind of never ended. Like, we had a peaceful period, but the tensions have been high between these two nations for years and years and years and years. So I think
Yeah.
it was just a little more of that.
Well, including helping to steal an election, the
Yeah,
allegations
all of
anyway.
that. Like, they hate us. If there's a documentary on Netflix, I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's about, dang, I'm having a brain fart. But it is about just um how much hands that Russia has, like, in our social media during election season, and how a lot of these movements that we think are like American bred are really just planted by the Russian government in order
Mhm.
to, like, change our minds and trick us. And it's so crazy how quickly and just how easily people fall for this stuff without even realizing, like, girl, this isn't even from here, you know? It's very crazy.
Well, you mentioned, as you mentioned earlier, Brittany, the Russian authorities found what amounted to a small amount of
Mhm.
marijuana or cannabis oil. And one of the things that President Biden said Thursday morning at his press conference with Sherelle Griner and the Vice President Kamala Harris was that it's so important that Americans, before they travel abroad, is to
Mhm.
check with the State Department on any laws and restrictions
Yeah.
that the country you're traveling to have. I tend to believe that Brittany may have known the law there
Mhm.
in Russia, may have because of her. There's a train of thought that because of her celebrity, because
Mhm.
she had been going there, this wasn't the first time she'd gone there.
Mhm.
Um, she understood that this was something that it wasn't anything. It was
Mhm.
something that would easily go through Russian custom,
Mhm.
that she essentially was set up
Mhm.
with that they knew that Brittany did have some cannabis oil
Mhm.
before. This is a habit, and
Mhm.
so they seized upon it. But talk about that importance for all, I don't, whether you're an athlete,
Yeah.
entertainer, or just an everyday person. how important it is to do what the president said and check with the
Mhm.
State Department.
100%. One thing that we can learn from this and just a lot of other cases where Americans are locked up overseas, y'all think the prisons here are bad? You do not want to be locked up. You don't want to be locked up in Mexico. You don't want to be locked up in Russia, Puerto Rico. These are different places, and it's not all fun and games over there. These prisons do not have, and again, we don't have the best prisons. So think
Right.
about that. These prisons don't even have the regulations that we have. You could be living literally in a camp. There's a lot of Mexican prisons where it is just dirt and bars, and you are behind there, like, and you have to sit there and deal with that. So, I personally would not take any risks. Don't play no games. It's not that serious. To put frankly, you need whatever it is you're trying to get over that bad. And if you need it that bad, find it over there, use it over there, and don't try to bring it back. But just be very, very careful. Don't even risk it. It's not worth it at all because Brittney Griner is a celebrity. You and I are just regular everyday people. So the lengths that they went to get her back are not going to be the same lengths that they go
Oh,
to get us
absolutely.
back. Okay. So unless you plan on staying over there for 9 years, 10 years, whatever it is, just don't get arrested overseas and don't do anything to get yourself arrested overseas. It's not safe.
It's and Amani, Brittany's wife Sherelle mentioned today that her and Brittany were going to continue to dedicate themselves to working to help get other Americans who are held abroad home.
Mhm.
What do you envision, or could you envision being Brittany Griner's role in being an ambassador?
Yeah, I think she now has a really unique experience that's going to have her able to have a lot of compassion for the people who are in the same situations as her, and she's going to have a sense of urgency about it that a lot of people who've never been in the situation has because she knows just how serious and how bad it can get. So I think her perspective, her celebrity, the access that she has to influence people, being in a space like that is going to be really beneficial for those Americans who are trapped over there.
Yeah, and just going back briefly to plans, you also mentioned about needing to analyze plans, Russia's plans, America's plans, and what is America's strategy. Can you talk about that a little bit going forward? America's strategy when it comes to the Brittany Griners, the Paul Whelans, and
Mhm.
was it Terry Reid and others? What should be the strategy going forward?
I think we should just take every case under a microscope and just analyze every case very specifically and see why they're there, and try to find different channels to get them home. I don't think the trades are always going to be what's best because we don't want to be trading hardened criminals for just people who had a oopsie over there. Like it's not a fair trade. So we need to figure out a way to litigate the situation without it always being a swap because it's basically blackmail, and we can't, what they say, we don't negotiate with terrorists.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can't be doing that every time somebody is locked up. So I think it's going to take a lot of strategy. As far as Russia is concerned, that make me take a deep sigh. I don't know what they're trying to do. In my opinion, this war wasn't necessary. Like, if you have you seen Russia, it's huge. Y'all didn't need Ukraine to be gigantic. It just wasn't necessary. But as we know, Putin is a very self-serving person. He's quite literally a dictator. So
Yeah.
we can't even begin to like understand his mindset because all we know is it's driven by ego and narcissism and the need for power. So when you're dealing with somebody like that, it's hard to have like common sense conversations.
Yeah, and long ago, I'm sure I'm making an assumption, but I think it's a safe one. Long before you were born, we saw American hostages come home from Iran,
Mhm.
1980, I should say, 1981, and we kind of got a glimpse on how they were reintegrated into their regular lives, which
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
nothing was normal again for them. This was 9 months, but the Iranian situation it lasted for over a year and a half. Um, but mentally,
Mhm.
someone like Brittany Griner, who it's when you had the freedoms of a Brittany Griner. I mean, we are
Yeah.
free, but being a top flight athlete, a famous
Mhm.
athlete, being able to do a lot of things that you and I can't do.
Mhm.
Um, how does she recover emotionally and mentally?
Yeah, she's absolutely going to need a therapist. Like, this isn't a journey that I would suggest that she embarks in on her own. Like, she's going to need help because I'm sure there's going to be some form of PTSD that she's going to have to deal with. And PTSD is not something you can just like wish away. It takes a lot of intense therapy. You have to be equipped with the right coping skills, and in some cases even medication is required to be able to be quote normal again. So she's going to have to get some of the best mental health care. I would suggest getting a Black therapist. I have a Black therapist, and it is a completely different experience. I'm telling you, when you have somebody that can identify with you just on that cultural level,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of things that we already have to deal with, like as Black people, you know. So by being able to have a therapist that she can relate to on that level is going to be it's not even going to be comparable for her. It's just going to be totally necessary.
Well, I mentioned earlier too, Amani, about knowing the laws and possibly Brittany understood what she was doing.
Mm.
Um, the other part of that therapy doesn't have to be her not necessarily blaming herself.
Definitely, yeah, because she's gonna have to get rid of that self guilt, because that's what kind of eats you up alive. Like, we have so much stuff coming in us from the outside world, but we are truly our own worst enemy in our own mind. And until you can heal and forgive yourself, it's going to be impossible for her to move forward. So I'm hoping that she doesn't feel any guilt. Brittany, if you're listening to this, girl, you ain't doing nothing wrong. Okay, it's not your fault. And she shouldn't carry that with her. She should just try to focus on rebuilding, diving into what she experienced over there, like not trying to brush it to the side or not trying to just gloss over it, but really having conversations about it, detailing that stuff to her therapy and to her therapist and to her wife, and letting somebody hear her and empathize with her and help her be able to get it out of her system. It's probably going to stay with her for years to come, but the more comfortable she is to talk about it and deal with it, then the better off she'll be in the long run.
And at what point, does she sit down with Oprah? At what point does she sit down with Gayle King?
Mhm.
Because that's going to happen.
It's gonna
Uh,
come.
but at what point would you recommend? Um, you could think about it a couple ways. As I said earlier, the president had admonished the media to give her space.
Mhm.
Does she do it sort of so quickly just to get it out the way, or does she need to breathe?
Yeah, I definitely say breathe because I don't want it to turn to like an exploitive experience. I don't want the first time that she talks about what she went through over there to be on camera because I mean that's going to be a lot of raw emotion that she's tapping into, and it's best she does that in a quiet, safe environment and not with everybody looking at her. So I would say take your time. If it's months, if you don't hear about this until next February,
Black journalists and white journalists will approach the story differently, totally differently,
yeah,
right?
100%, yeah.
And so recognizing that, well,
Mhm,
I mean, we hope that the Griner
mhm.
family recognizes that, right? Because that's important as well.
100%. Just like the same thing with therapy. Like when you're talking to your own people, it's different because there's a lot of just subtext that comes with being a Black American that we don't have to explicitly say, but we all can know and understand.
Mhm.
And you're having a different conversation when you're talking like that, rather than having to explain certain points of view to somebody who just can't relate.
And also, she is, she's this huge athlete, as we said.
Mhm.
Everyone knows who she is. And
Mhm.
she's right now one of the most famous people on the planet right now because of the
Yeah.
situation, right?
Right.
But this is a time to understand who the close family is and who the real friends are, right?
Mhm. Yeah, she gonna find out. She's definitely gonna find out who's been advocating for her this whole time. Like her wife never gave up fighting for her, so she's gonna be able to have that. But I mean, there
But they have to know how to behave and carry on from here on in too, right? With this
exactly.
situation.
100% having a partner that's suffering from something like PTSD or who is dealing with such a traumatic experience isn't going to be easy on the people around her. And I would suggest that they get therapy too. Like they figure out whatever ways they need to cope. They should care for their mental health as well because it's not an easy thing to digest. So it's going to be a really difficult situation for her and everybody who's surrounding her. But I'm hoping that they can make it through.
Yeah, and not a lot of African Americans have traveled to a place like Russia. Not a lot
Yeah.
of there's a lot of places where we just don't go, right?
Mhm.
But her experience, how is that going to affect Black travel?
I definitely think it's gonna make people raise an eyebrow. Like, I will not be going to Russia anytime soon, or probably ever, just because of probably mostly because of the situation. One, I didn't plan on going there anyway, but two, they don't love the blacks over there. So I will not be going. I would advise, I can't say w- travel to Russia with caution. That's all I'll say on that.
Travel with, yeah, there was. I'll say this: there was a time, where I thought, man, that's interesting, going to Russia. I
Mm,
might want to do. I don't know about that.
absolutely not. Mm-mm. The world to see. I don't see it.
And, and Amani, again, the piece in Newsweek. You start off. You say, "I'm a Black person in Texas." Um, I like that. It's just immediately identifying. So don't get it twisted. And how important is that? Because again, we're talking about um, Brittney Griner and her eventual meeting with media, right? And and
Mhm,
and Black journalists and white journalists alike. Um, but you have to set the tone immediately, right? On both sides.
mhm.
If you're interviewing her, or if you're her being interviewed, especially her, she has to really establish the ground rule, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. When she's doing these interviews, I'm hoping that they kind of just let her have the floor, like have your questions that you want to ask, but really let her guide the conversation, and let her be able to gauge what she's comfortable speaking on and what she isn't comfortable speaking on. Who knows? Maybe years from now, she'll be willing to reveal a lot more information than she probably does in these initial interviews. So we should just give her the grace to kind of go about the conversation as she sees fit.
Yeah, as journalists, what do we need to know?
Exactly. Honestly, it's such a personal experience. So there's really nothing we need to know, you know? I would say just let it be up to her. Maybe the stuff that we need to know just as a society is what the prison system is like over there. That might be insightful. That can kind of stir up some like human rights issues and things like that that we
Mhm.
as a nation need to be aware of. And maybe those are things that we can start advocating for. It's just safer, fairer prisons. So that's a perspective that might be valuable. But other than that, like I'm not super interested in hearing, "Oh, this happened to me, this happened to me, this happened
Right.
to me, this happened to me." Like, that's very
Tabloids will be interested in that, right?
right, right, but all we need to think about is just from a human rights perspective.
Yeah. Well, what's Brittany's future in the WNBA? At
Mhm,
this point, I'm pretty sure that that's probably not even a thought in her mind right now.
right,
But she's been around a while. I mean, she's
yeah,
32 years old.
mhm.
Um, but what do you foresee as her future there?
Yeah, she is like a whole Olympian. So she's had a great career. And like you said, I'm sure she misses the sport. Like it's something that she's very passionate about to the point where she never had an off season. She was playing here, then playing there. Like she's 24 hours every single calendar day. It was something that she committed her life to. So I know that she probably wants to play again just for therapeutic reasons. Like I'm sure it would give her like a sense of normalcy. But do we know when that'll happen? If it'll happen soon, who knows? Maybe she'll go a different route. Maybe she'll coach. Maybe she'll, start a little league team, not a little league, but a
Yeah,
smaller team, coach young
minor league.
girls. Like we don't know where she'll take it, but I don't see her leaving the sport completely.
Yeah, even in a role, maybe as a coach or general manager or something of that nature. Um, eh, she just may feel some apprehension about speaking in general, as Greer points out, right?
Absolutely. Like I cannot imagine. I truly can't imagine just even the fear that she felt when she thought that she was going to be there possibly 9 years, like thinking that you're going to just lose that long of your life and be away from your family that long overseas with nobody. Like, and just the fact that she is a Black gay woman. And we know Russia is not friendly to the gays. Like, they don't treat them well over there. And on top of that, she is Black. So it was just a lot that she's going to have to process when she gets back here, and she may not want to do that on camera,
Mhm.
but we'll see what she decides.
Yeah, we were in um, Disney. This show was in Disney World in Florida
Mm,
when she was detained, when she was first detained, and a couple of members of the WNBA was there. We were at a Disney event, and they they were very and I won't say who they were. It was two individuals from the
mm,
WNBA. I don't want to make it seem like they are these bad people or
mm,
uncaring people, but we certainly spoke with them briefly, and they seemed to not be caught off guard or not be so surprised or not be so alarmed
mm,
by it. And overall, it doesn't seem like, I mean, there are some, but it doesn't
mhm.
seem like the WNBA overall really supported her in a
Yeah.
way in which you thought they might have.
That's true. I did not see like a huge push from a lot of WNBA people. I saw a lot of celebrities speaking out about it, but not a whole lot of people from the WNBA particularly, which is weird because she was a part that organization for many many years. She's quite literally like their shining star. She's the
Right.
best athlete that they have ever had. She's the only athlete that like dunked. I believe she got like what 20,000 points. She had blocked like 500 shots. Like her stats were insane. So somebody who was just such a pinnacle of like the WNBA identity outside of like Lisa Leslie, they haven't known a huge star like
Oh,
that
that's a great
since
comparison.
then.
Yeah.
So for her to be like this huge player, and really one of the reasons why people still watch, hello, they should have reacted much differently.
And finally, Amani, and not, I don't think you covered this in your article, but I'll throw it out there. We've heard so much about the pay disparity between the
Mhm.
NBA and the WNBA, and that was a primary reason why she was, or the reason why she was playing in Russia in the first place. Um, are we going to start seeing more of a movement to try and not necessarily level the playing field there? Because I don't know that that's possible without the type of, the NBA has just so much sponsorship,
Mhm.
but to try and make a move to get WNBA players more money.
I hope so. I absolutely hope so. That is an angle that I thought about because she wouldn't have to play overseas if she was getting paid well enough over here. And it's not even like even in the playing field. WNBA players are making like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a decimal of a fraction of what NBA players are making. So even if they were to move it to 1/10 of their salaries, they would still be living a lot better. There's a lot of WNBA players who are barely making $40,000 a year.
Yes.
That is nothing in these days. Like they're
And
playing.
doesn't that money speak more more to corporate America than it does to the WNBA? Because again, it's corporate America and ESPN and
100%.
others that drive the NBA and allow them to pay their players 40 million a year and things of that
Mhm.
nature. So where are they for the WNBA? When you go to an arena for the
Yeah.
WNBA, it's just as full
Yeah.
as an NBA arena.
100%. And it's something that happens in women's sports all around. Sorry, my cat want to be here so bad.
Okay. Hey,
It's
Kat.
something that happens to not to women's athletes all around. I remember the soccer players were just doing an interview talking about it because again, these are all high quality athletes. These are Olympians. They are playing and they have won this country gold against the world. So it's no denying their talent, and there's no denying the need or the want for them to even be entertainers. People are watching them. People are supporting them. So there's no lack of that. So it's really just a wage gap thing that happens really across all industries in the country. Women make a fraction of a man's dollar. I don't know the exact amount. Black women make the least.
Right.
To every dollar that a white man makes. So it's a bigger issue. And this was just kind of a good way for us to put like a lens on it at this moment.
Well, Brittney Griner has is returned. The U.S. has made it official. There was a trade for Victor Bout, the notorious merchant of death. She's home, and we know that it's going to be a long road for Brittney Griner, and the Black press is still mindful of Paul Wheeling and others who are being held as political prisoners. Hopefully, they will get home soon as well. Amani Wells-Onyioha, we really, really appreciate you joining the Black Press of America today. And everybody, check out Amani's writing for Newsweek. I think you'll enjoy it. Thank you so much, Amani.
Thank you so much for having me. This was good.
Everybody, we will see you again tomorrow.